They parted, she to the palace to weep over her treachery to her father, he to the ship to send two of his comrades for the dragon's teeth. Meanwhile he made trial of the ointment, and at the touch of it a terrible, irresistible power entered into him, and the heroes all exulted. Yet even so, when they reached the field where the king and the Colchians were waiting, and the bulls rushed out from their lair, breathing forth flames of fire, terror overcame them, but Jason withstood the fearful creatures as a great rock in the sea withstands the waves. He forced first one and then the other down on its knees and fastened the yoke upon them, while all wondered at his mighty prowess. Over the field he drove them, pressing the plough down firmly and casting the dragon's teeth into the furrows. By the time the ploughing was done, the crop was springing up, men bristling with arms, who came rushing to attack him. Jason remembered Medea's words and flung a huge stone into their midst. With that, the warriors turned upon each other and fell beneath their own spears, while the furrows ran with blood. So Jason's contest was ended in victory, better to King Aetes. Can't help but think that's a metaphor for something with the Princess Medea. The king went back to the palace, planning treachery against the heroes, and vowing they should never have the golden fleece, but Hera was working for them. She made Medea, all bewildered with love and misery, determined to fly with Jason. That night she stole out of the house and sped along the dark path to the ship, where they were rejoicing in their good fortune with no thought of evil. She fell on her knees before them and begged them to take her with them. They must get the fleece at once, she told them, and then make all haste away, or they would be killed. A terrible serpent guarded the fleece, but she would lull it to sleep so that it would do to them no harm. Remember how the snake wraps around and in the center is the sun, so could it be a kundalini thing? She spoke in anguish, but Jason rejoiced and raised her gently and embraced her and promised her she would be his own wedded wife. When once they were back in Greece, then, taking her on board, they went where she directed. She reached the sacred grove where the fleece hung. The guardian serpent was very terrible, but Medea approached it fearlessly, and singing a sweet magical song, she charmed it to sleep. Swiftly Jason lifted the golden wonder from the tree it hung on, and hurrying back, they reached the ship as dawn was breaking. The strongest were put at the oars, and they rowed with all their might down the river to the sea. By now, what had happened was known to the king, and he sent his son in pursuit. Medea's brother, Apsyrtus. He led an army so great that it seemed impossible for the little band of heroes either to conquer it or to escape. But Medea saved them again, this time by a horrible deed. She killed her brother. Some say she sent him word that she was longing to go back to her home, and that she had the fleece for him if he would meet her that night at a certain spot. He came all unsuspecting, and Jason struck him down, and his dark blood dyed his sister's silvery robe as she shrank away. With its leader dead, the army scattered in disorder, and the way to the sea lay open to the heroes. Others say that Apsyrtus set sail on Argo with Medea, although why he did so is not explained. and that it was the king who pursued them. As his ship gained on them, Medea herself struck her brother down, and cutting limb from limb, cast the pieces into the sea. The king stopped to gather them, and the Argo was saved. By then, the adventure of the Argonauts were almost over. One terrible trial they had while passing between the smooth, sheer rock of Scylla and the whirlpool of Charybdis, where the sea forever spouted and roared, and the furious waves mounting up touched the very sky. But Hera had seen to it that the sea nymphs should be at hand to guide them and send the ship on to safety. Next came Crete, where they would have landed, but for Medea, she told them that Talus lived there, the last men left of the ancient bronze race, a creature made all of bronze except one ankle, where alone he was vulnerable. Even as she spoke, he appeared, terrible to behold, and threatened to crush the ship with rocks if they drew nearer. They rested on their oars, and Medea, kneeling, prayed to the hounds of Hades to come and destroy him. The dread powers of evil heard her, as the bronze man lifted a pointed crag to hurl it at the Argo. He grazed his ankle, and the blood gushed forth until he sank and died. Then the heroes could land and refresh themselves for the voyage still before them. Upon reaching Greece, they disbanded, each hero going to his home, and Jason, with Medea, took the golden fleece to Peleus, but they found that terrible deeds had been done there. Peleus had forced Jason's father to kill himself, and his mother had died of grief. Jason, bent on punishing this wickedness, turned to Medea for the help which had never failed him. She brought about the death of Peleus by a cunning trick. To his daughter she said that she knew a secret, how to make the old young again. And to prove her words, she cut up before them a ram, worn out with many years, and put the pieces into a pot of boiling water. Then she uttered a charm, and in a moment out from the water sprang a lamb and ran frisking away. The maidens were convinced. Medea gave Peleus a potent sleeping draught and called upon his daughters to cut him into bits. With all their longing to make him young again, they could hardly force themselves to do so. But at last the dreadful task was done. The pieces in the water, and they looked to Medea to speak the magic words that would bring them back to them and to his youth. But she was gone from the palace and from the city, and horrified, they realized that they were their father's murderers. Jason was revenged indeed. And the point of magic is not to prove magical prowess. There is a story too, or at least it shouldn't be, that Medea restored Jason's father to life and made him young again, and that she gave to Jason the secret of perpetual youth. All that she did of evil and of good was done for him alone, and in the end all the reward she got was that he turned traitor to her. They came to Corinth after Peleus' death. 2 sons were born to them, and all seemed well, even to Medea, in her exile. Lonely as exile must always be, but her great love for Jason made the loss of her family and her country seem to her a little thing. And then Jason showed the meanness that was in him. Brilliant hero though he had seemed to be, he engaged himself to marry the daughter of the king of Corinth. It was a splendid marriage, and he thought of ambition only, never of love or gratitude. In the first amazement at his treachery and the passion of her anguish, Medea let fall words which made the king of Corinth fear she would do harm to his daughter. He must have been a singularly unsuspicious man not to have thought of that before, and he sent her word that she and her sons must leave the country at once. That was a doom almost as bad as death. A woman in exile, with little helpless children, and no protection for herself or them.